Welcome to No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am your co-pilot and beard ingenue, Tank.
Tank is Billy Butcher, and I'm Huey.
Yeah.
There is a clear difference in skill and morals between the two of us. Also, one of us likes to use the C word a lot.
It's my favorite word.
Content.
Oh. Yeah, that one's all right too.
Well, I see both of us are really living our best quarantine life, and this is a question that I thought of in regards to how movie theaters have kind of disappeared and movies coming out have also kind of disappeared other than streaming services. So I wanted to ask you what upcoming film would essentially force you to go back to a theater? Like, could be anything in production, anything we know is happening. Could be, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which they've done like nothing on yet, but we know it's
Yeah.
happening. Would that be the movie to force you to go, well, I gotta go back to the theater to see it?
Timeline specific. Um, I'd say Top Gun 2.
Top Gun 2.
Yeah,
What was, did they have a
Maverick.
special name for it?
It's
Maverick,
Top Gun
that's
2
right.
Maverick, or it's Maverick colon Top Gun 2, whatever it is. And typically I'm not a size queen when it comes to theaters and like
Right.
sound and stuff like. I mean, all my stuff here is really top notch. I mean, I have a
Mm.
great setup, but you're watching jets and explosions, and you want to feel that. You
Yeah,
know what I
totally.
mean? Um, I mean,
Remember remember when we saw Onward and we
yeah,
saw it in that experience? I'm trying to remember, XD experience or something.
yeah, it's like 4D. I think is what they call it.
Was it 40? I thought it was
I
like
think
XD or something because it
no,
was like a
XD's
roller
the big.
coaster.
No, it's the big screen. XD's the big. XD is their IMAX at Cinemark.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't 4D. That's what it was. But
Yeah,
they had a special name for it, and
but I
I don't
mean, like
remember what it
the
was.
chairs were moving, like it was crazy. And I remember you leaned over during the movie and went, "Top Gun Maverick" in
Yeah,
this, and I was like, "Dude, you would die. You get like whiplash."
I love it. No,
Yeah.
I only like they tried to do, they tried to do like water and stuff like that, droplets, and
It's
and that's a bit much. But like
it's cute, but I was
imagine
like, God damn.
cute is the perfect word for it. It's just
Yeah.
but like watching Top Gun like that with the when you're, I the
They're
D
gonna do
box
like
is
jet engine heat.
well, and like when a jet goes past you, if you could feel a whoosh, that would
Totally.
be cool.
That'd be
But
awesome.
outside of that, I mean, it's all just frosting and unnecessary. But it's still, I love the seat moving. I saw what was the John Krasinski, The Quiet Place. I saw The Quiet Place in similar
Like,
seats.
oh
The D
really?
box, well, the D box at Cinemark, which is their version of that,
Gotcha.
and the chairs move with the action kind of deal,
Mm.
and it was neat. Like it adds to it. It's kind of one of those things that's like just so subtle, unless there's a jump. Bless you. Unless
Thank
there's
you.
like a jump scare, it's really subtle. It's kind of like illuminating the background of the wall to match the screen.
Oh.
It's something you don't notice, but it kind of heightens it a little
It
bit.
makes the experience better. I feel like almost a horror movie might be a better placement for that technology.
I tell you what, it adds to it for sure, because
Yeah.
especially when you're like, because you could feel it, like you're when the camera kind of pans to the left, you
Mm.
creak to the left, and then it's like and then the chair goes and you're like
Oh god,
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's
that
pretty
sounds
fun.
great.
That's pretty
Um,
fun.
so Top Gun Maverick would be the
I
one.
think so. Unless there's something I'm missing. I was really excited about Mulan. I'm not paying $30 to see it, but I was really excited about it.
Yeah,
Um, and again, it does look like an epic, but it's not something that I need to see on the big
totally.
screen. I feel like Top Gun is that movie that I need to see on the
You
big screen.
you went for closer. You went for
Yeah,
like around the corner because Top Gun was supposed to come out like
the summer.
yeah, in the summer of this year. Um, if I went closer, I'd probably go with the new James Bond. However, my real answer is the Batman because I want
Oh,
it
okay.
now. Because I want it
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
That's probably my most anticipated film right now. You know what I mean? because it's like
I do.
I'm just excited to see what they do. I'm so excited.
It is a because it's so like and the trailer makes it look really exciting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's cool when you get and that's like one of the things I think that we've actually been missing a lot since quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, movie trailers give you that sense of something's coming.
Yeah.
And we haven't had that until, last couple of weeks they finally started like releasing some new trailers and we've
Sure.
finally been starting to get some new stuff, but up until this point, you know.
You know the and I feel like it's a very interesting stance. I would like to think that quarantine and COVID's not going to be as crazy by this time next year, but the director of Halloween Kills, which is going to be the sequel to the last Halloween movie that came out,
Mhm.
he was like, "Oh yeah, it's coming out a Halloween of next year, regardless, like COVID or no COVID. It's in the theaters next year. Like that's our mission statement." And I'm like, boy, like we better hope there ain't anything going on next year then.
Well, here's the thing. You gotta and not to get political or medical or any of this stuff, because that's not
Yeah,
what we do here, but a year from now, you gotta think
it'll be
that they're gonna
different.
it's
Yeah,
gotta be,
it's gotta
or
be.
it's over. You know what I mean? Like, not to be not to be alarmist, but I mean, another year of this, and I could possibly go crazy. So,
There's a guy that I follow on Twitter. I think
oh, I
his
thought you meant home from work, and I
nope.
was like, you creep.
I think his name's like Brandon Davis. He on every social media he's just BD. He's really involved with Marvel and really the comic book world, but he's like does interviews with all these people. He's really great. But a report came out that some Disney exec was trying to push Marvel to just releasing Black Widow on Disney Plus, and then he like retweeted the article and was like, "This is the end of movie theaters. It's over. They're done." And I was like, "God, I hope not."
I'd hate to see that, man, and it's just it's one of those things. Today I was it's so funny because I was thinking about this today. I was in drive through getting a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
looking at the insurance place on South Side, and it also has travel. Dude, there used to be legit travel agencies.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you even like are you even
No,
aware of
no,
that?
I'm totally
Because
aware of
you're
that.
you're
Yeah.
much younger than I am, so your kids, my kids, will never know what a travel agency was.
It's true.
They'll never
Because
experience the internet completely
destroyed them.
uh, obliviated that industry. So it's kind of one of those things where like is it the end or is it
But here's the
we're gonna
thing. I don't.
or are we just gonna start doing it differently again? You know what I
But
mean? Are we gonna go back to single screen houses and you know
yeah,
I
could be. I'm just saying. I don't think it. I think movie theaters wouldn't go away because it's such an experience that people want to be
Mhm.
a part of. Whereas travel agents, their job essentially evolved into an app can do it for you. An app can't give you a movie theater experience. Um,
True.
even VR technology has the ability to play you a movie and sit you in a movie theater, like in a VR, like you're sitting in your house, but then you put on the VR goggles and it looks like you're in a movie theater all by yourself or with an audience or however they do it. But that still won't replace the actual feeling of being in a movie theater.
Well, and honestly, it's a way of going out and doing something without
Yeah.
having to do something.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
super great. Yeah.
Dinner and a movie, that's what everybody, I mean, that's most people's Friday and or Saturday night. You know
And
what I
it's
mean?
like a
Even
perfect date option too, because
absolutely.
then you spend the time getting to know each other during the dinner, and then you're like, well, I don't want to talk to this person anymore. Let's go see Star Wars.
And then you
Uh,
slip out, right?
yeah, and then during the trailers, you're like, I'm gonna go get some popcorn.
Right. And you just leave them there.
Come
Yeah.
back. Well, speaking of movie theaters and trailers, how about we talk about some of our trailers today? The three that I have listed, I'm gonna call the three that'll make us cry,
Yeah, for sure.
because all three of these are movies that I'm like, at some point, I'm gonna get emotional. First off, we have the new trailer that came out for Pixar's Soul. What did you think of the trailer this time around?
Dude, I thought number one, I feel like we're entering a new evolution, a new stage of animation
Mm.
because of the way the city looked.
Oh,
Did
just
you?
because of how like good everything looked.
I mean, like not just good, but realistic, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean just so crisp and clean, and it
Pic-
was beautiful.
Pixar's been killing it with like realistic
Yeah,
looking things while also putting cartoony nothing on top of it.
and I gotta be curious, and I gotta wonder, like, have they been touching this up the whole time that it's been, So
Could
like,
be.
who knows? But also the story looks great. Inside Out, one of my favorite Pixar
Mm-hmm.
movies. This has that vibe, and
Totally.
this is the first time you're getting an insight into the story, as far as I know, as far as the trailers go, and the story looks so interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Because before, at least from the teaser trailer, and this actually got in the movie a lot of flack when it came out. They show a black man living his life dies, and then he's a cute little soul thing, and then people are like, are they really going to say, hey, we have a black character, and then not show him as a black man the entire movie? Really cutting representation because it doesn't work in other markets. This movie looks like it covers his entire life, and I'm so happy about it.
yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like the we're not spoiling, we're not ruining anything here
No,
because
no, no.
obviously we haven't seen the movie, but he ends up in the place where souls go before they're born,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where
It's
souls get their interests,
mm-hmm.
and that is such an interesting like the concept of the whole thing seems amazing, and the
Very
idea
interesting.
of looking about and looking at your life as a whole
Mm-hmm.
after you're dead is beautiful, and like you said, just looks like a total tearjerker. You know
Did
what I
you
mean?
did you did you die at that joke with the big like structure falling on all the little souls? And then we were like, "Oh no, you can't crush a soul here. That's what going to Earth's for."
Yeah, it's great. See, that's
Boom.
Pixar, dude. That's why Pixar is so great.
They
Because
are.
that's not for the kids. That's for mom and dad. Because
Oh,
they know.
totally. Yeah.
So the kids will,
Um,
the kids will go. And dude, I'm so stoked that this is gonna be on Disney Plus.
Me too. Like honestly, I was really excited to see it in the theater, but I feel like I'm gonna have a better experience watching it by myself,
Hmm
like on Disney Plus.
and it's coming out on Christmas. So
Yeah.
family
Maybe
watching
you won't be by
together.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have your family with you. That'll be
Looks
sweet.
great. Yeah, it looks really
It
good.
looks really really good. I also wanted to add because the entire film, I mean, even the joke on the title, it's very jazzy because he was
Hmm
a musician. That opening where he's like walking through the street and everything making noise is becoming music, so well done. And all I'm thinking is the soundtrack to this movie, I bet is gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna
It
be
really is.
awesome. Yeah, so I'm super excited for that. I'm gonna skip the middle one right now so we can go down to the bottom one because
Okay.
9 Days looks like a live action Pixar film
It does.
on terms of like premise.
Yeah. And it's got my dude Winston Duke in it, in a new kind of role. You're used to seeing he's
Yeah.
kind of a badass, but this he's really got like a such a nurturing
Mm-hmm.
vibe, and just like so, I mean, just so warm. I mean, it looks, it reminds me of not. Not because they both have numbers in the title, but 7 pounds. You ever seen 7 pounds?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's got a kind of that thing, but there's like a supernatural aspect kind of thing, and there's
It's very like the premise is so interesting because I don't think we've seen anything like it, and they really have like all those reports from Sundance and stuff. People are just saying this will change your whole outlook on life, and truly, it just looks like it's a couple of people. He is the one trying to make them see what life is all about, and they have 9 days, and then he decides who gets to live a life. I guess it's very
yeah,
interesting.
right.
But Winston Duke, yeah, I'm excited to see him doing some real good acting chops because I love
Mhm.
him.
I'm a
Uh,
big fan. I'm a big fan. Even though I never saw Us,
Oh, he's so good in Us.
I
He's
just
so good in Us.
I the again, this is kind of one of those trailers. You know, you talked about it at the top of the show that gets you kind of in the
Yep.
I just know this is gonna make me kind of like a less cheesy City of Angels almost.
Sure.
I kind of get that vibe from it.
No, I completely agree. It looks really good.
Yeah.
The next trailer we have is another one that's like, it's coming out on Netflix, and the trailer will make you just go, "Huh? Well, I'm gonna cry at that. I'm sure."
I didn't get through the trailer without crying.
Really? Oh
So
wow. So yeah, Hillbilly Elegy. Is that how you say it?
I think that is elegy, is how you say that.
Yeah, that's. I wanted to make sure I was saying it right, but essentially it's Glenn Close, Amy Adams, and the kid. They said it's 3 generations in the making. Is this supposed to be like Boyhood, where it's like the same actor but grown up? Is that what they were saying?
I don't know, but they definitely, if it's not, they nailed it with casting the kid
Totally.
for
I'm gonna
sure.
IMDb it just to like make sure if they have any interesting like, um, like trivia about it on how it was shot. But no, it looks super good. It looks like it's a mother trying her best, but also not her best to take care of her son. And then it's her mother, Glenn Close's character, who's really teaching him about life and having him grow up. While the mother, who's Amy Adams, is going through, like, I guess, her worst life.
She's pilled up.
Yeah.
You know, it's that, it's one of those things like you don't really see a lot of like the white trashy kind of,
Yeah. No, like, you don't see that area.
as the hero, you know what I mean, as the
Mm-hmm.
protagonist of a movie, you know what I mean. So this is like really interesting, and they do a great job with Glenn Close and Amy Adams, because those are, two beautiful actresses, and they make them, dude, they look so legitimate. And dude, the kid is seems like a good actor, and um there's like 3 different generations of all this stuff going on. It's so crazy.
Hmm.
And I mean, I just I didn't watch the trailer because it didn't seem, I thought it was just, gonna be another passable movie.
Yeah.
um and then like when I watched it, I was like, wow, this is gonna be incredible.
Yeah, it really looks powerful, and
Hmm.
I didn't find anything about like them aging up the actor or anything. It looks like they really just got some kids that look exactly the same. But I think the outcry I've seen from the trailer is that they're like 2 Oscar-nominated stars, and it's Glenn Close and Amy Adams, and then people were like, "How about this be the one? Can this be the one where they get it, please, please?" I mean, I was shocked. I was like, Glenn Close doesn't have an Oscar yet?
Yeah, that's a little
Really?
surprising. Yeah.
That was really surprising to me.
Mm.
But no, I'm super interested in the movie. It really looks great. But I'm excited. All 3 of these movies are just going to be tearjerker central.
I agree, and I'm really excited. I'm excited about all of them, man. I'm
Yeah,
really stoked to see
me
all of
too.
them, and I'm excited. I'm so happy that movies are starting to become a thing again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Because for a long time, the only movie trailers you were getting were, movies that use the same font as Fast and the Furious, but it's about an alligator that drives a car. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah,
it's good to see. It's good to see blockbusters back.
yeah, for real. I'm honestly excited to see, because I do feel like it's gonna be the end of this year where we're gonna start getting those big movies back. I mean,
Hmm.
Tenet was supposed to be it, but I feel like because nobody really went back to the theater, Tenet has kind of like come and gone. Neither of us have seen it yet, which like kind of hurts because I really want
Well,
to see that movie.
and nobody's talking about it. You know
Not
what I mean?
anymore. They were when it
Yeah.
first came out, but it was supposed to be the next big blockbuster movie. But if
Mm.
nobody's going to the movie theaters, like the people who went to the movie theaters and talked about it are the people whose jobs it is to go to the movie theaters and talk about it. And that's why all of us heard about it. They're
Right.
marketing. I watched a lot of YouTube, and every other ad that I got was about Tenet, and they'd be like, "The summer blockbuster is back," and then nobody talked about it, and of
Over
course,
$30,000 box office worldwide.
like just nobody went and
So
saw it.
it's a shame. I think they rushed it. They should have held out.
Well, rushed it being he wanted to hold on for it forever, and the studio was like, just release it already. We've been holding on to this movie too long, and he was like, it needs to be in a theater. So heartbreaking. Anyways, what do you say we get into some news?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first we've got up this very interesting story that I wanted to tell you about because I think it's doing something right, and I wanted to see if you agree with me. But Disney Plus has started to put content warnings before programs that feature maybe some inappropriate stuff. But they haven't altered the film at all. All they do now is just show this little thing that I'm going to read here. It just says, this program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. Disney is committed to creating strong stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe. To learn more about how these stories impacted society, and then they do a Stories Matter URL, so you can kind of learn about how those stories that they were doing stereotypes on impacted society then. And I think that's super awesome and interesting that that's the way they're going about it.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody's going to read that because it's very long.
I will say, down at the bottom of the thing, it says, like, because there's a screenshot was from what I was reading, and it literally says, like, your movie starts in 11. And I think it's a countdown.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of want you to read it.
Well,
but,
I mean, yeah, you're still not going to. It's a lot of words. You're going to look at your phone until the movie starts.
True.
But I respect what they're doing for a couple of reasons. Number one, putting it out there. Number two, I hate the idea of changing or canceling movies because there is stuff that's outdated. And I understand the premise and the idea of trying to make things better. But honestly, there's just no excuse to deconstruct a story that's already been told.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I hate that. I hate the idea of that. Even on something as dumb as Grown Ups, when they show it now, they took out the part where they M-word, little people wrestling. They took that part out. And it's like, it's a small thing, but at the same time, it's kind of like, just let it be there. You know what I mean? We all know it's wrong.
Because it came out in an age where that was
right. It's a different
considered
time.
Okay to say it. And of course, that age wasn't that long ago, but I think when people watch it, it's supposed to be the more shock value of it. Where it's
Absolutely.
like, oh, wow, they said this, when did Grown Ups come out? Like 2012?
Something like that. Maybe 2010. Yeah. Maybe, but at the same time, the warning, just, hey, excuse our racism. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it would be plenty. You know what I mean?
And that's essentially what they're doing. And
I appreciate that because, number one, it gives you the opportunity to talk to your kids about it. As the movies, because your kid's going to ask you about like, look, this was not a good representation of these peoples. So let's, just keep that in mind as you're watching it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I think it's not the same. And again, we're not going to get into politics and things like that. It's not the same as removing monuments from the Confederacy.
You're right.
I feel like this is a different type of, completely changing a story or removing a part of a story seems to be a little bit short-sighted in the discussion. Of why it's wrong.
And the movies that this is happening to, or at least the two like examples I have put down, are like Dumbo, which has the crows, which are very inoffensive, or offensive, not inoffensive.
I was gonna say
very offensive. Okay. No, nothing's wrong with those. Nothing's wrong with those crows. No.
I got the tattoo of those crows on my arm.
No, those crows were super offensive. And then Peter Pan, which I had to double back in my mind when I read that, and I was like, "What's offensive about Peter?"
Yeah,
Oh,
the Native American stuff.
yeah. And I was like, "Man, I grew up with that stuff." And then in the back of my mind, of course, I'm not thinking anything about it because I'm like, "Well, I grew up with it, and I thought it was fine
Sure.
then," but because I didn't know, you know what I
Well,
mean?
and that came at a time, honestly, man, when all of the movies portrayed indigenous peoples that
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And some even worse, honestly. Like,
Sure.
there's an entire genre of movies dedicated to how evil they wanted to portray the indigenous people as,
Yeah, sure.
the
Because
Indian,
they're the ones
right,
against American progression. You know what I mean?
absolutely,
But it's like,
right.
yeah, it's completely ridiculous. But that
Yeah,
was
so I mean,
media.
it's not the worst way that it could be portrayed, but I mean, kudos to them for getting ahead of it and keeping the movie whole. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I appreciate the fact that keeping the movie whole, and I think that this is something. I don't, did Looney Tunes do the same kind of thing? Do you remember?
Looney Tunes would straight up just take down their offensive stuff. Because
Oh,
I
okay.
remember there was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon with a depiction of a black man that was super offensive.
There was a
And
lot of those, and
yeah. And they
I watched.
just completely took those away. They were like,
It's
we're not even dealing with those.
I maybe that's not even the worst thing, honestly, because
No.
it wasn't it wasn't as innocent as the Disney stuff was,
Oh no, not at all.
kind of. And what's funny is I watched those in the late '80s. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I grew up on those cartoons, so even the late '80s, I was seeing these depictions. I was watching uh, Pepe Le Pew not getting consent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's an interesting thing, and that when you think about how times have changed, and even like uh how times changed from when those came out to when I saw them 40, 50 years later.
yeah.
It's wild, man, when you think about it. So I think this is I think it's a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong, and I know people will find fault with it because people
Sure.
think Christopher Columbus was a hero. So people will find fault with this kind of stuff because they'll want it to be a certain way. But I think getting ahead of it, and I think that letting people know, hey, we know this is wrong, but we don't want to mess with the story.
Yeah,
But we do want you to know that we acknowledge that this is not how people should be represented. And
absolutely.
give you the opportunity to a decide if you want your kids to see it, b decide how you approach your kids and telling them what the story is doing.
Right. Totally. And really, this is. I feel like this is the right thing to do, and it's interesting how on both sides of the spectrum, this will be seen as not enough, and other people will see
Absolutely,
this as too much, and it's
absolutely.
truly sad because I think me personally that this is the best way to go about it, especially that they put in the conversation of or the talk of having a conversation about the depictions and be like,
Mhm.
let's try to learn from this and grow from it instead of just, you know, erasing it.
Right.
That mindset.
And you're right. There's going to be people who are going to
Mm-hmm.
demand that these scenes be taken out.
Sure.
And there's going to be people that are be like, what, there's nothing wrong with these scenes, it's just the way it was. So there's going to be both. There's four sides to this discussion,
Yeah, for
and
real.
you know um and everybody's entitled to their own opinion about it, honestly. So
Absolutely.
in my opinion, I think this is a good move, and
I agree.
I would rather see this than people taking liberties with stories.
Totally. Completely agree. Because especially with some of these older films, it's like the creators might not be around to kind of vouch for, you know, you changing their stories.
Right.
And, you know, that's a whole other can of worms of not okay. And also, well, why does it matter? They created it anyways. And, anyways. But I think this is the right way to go about it. But, yeah, I would like to move into something that I wanted to get your opinion on because this is kind of crazy. So, for the past week, I want to say literally right after we recorded our last episode of this, rumors started coming out, and people started reporting it was true, was that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have been confirmed for Spider-Man 3 with Tom Holland. They have been confirmed to be in the film.
Mm-hmm.
This spread like wildfire, and a lot of people were writing about it, like articles that many people trust. And then Sony had to just recently come out and say none of that is confirmed. But the wording of none of it is confirmed still makes me think that they're trying to do that. And I wanted to ask you if they were going to be involved in the film. One, would
Mm-hmm.
you want them to be? And two, if they are, what would you like them to be in that film? Do you want it to be Spider-Verse but live action, or do you want it to be like a cameo here and there?
Yeah. So you know how news is, and you
Yeah,
know how rumors spread, and
totally.
one person puts it up as a meme. Next thing you know, it's the truth.
It's
So
everywhere.
um, that is what that is. I honestly, dude, I would love to see a Spider Verse.
Totally.
I think that would be amazing. Yeah, that would make me really happy. I mean, even though Tobey Maguire would have to be the Peter Parker that was overweight with the dad bod at this point, because he's
Totally. I think they definitely will. If they did something like that, they would want to age them up from where they were when we last saw them.
right.
You know what I mean? So if it was Tobey Maguire from his Spider-Man universe, he would be the old Peter Parker now.
Hmm.
The older Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire
As
is not really an old guy, but
uh, as long as they don't bring back Topher Grace as Venom, I think I'm good with revisiting any of this stuff. Um, you know, it could be really interesting. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? It's so meta, and it's something we've never really done before necessarily.
I mean, it's just so different for what we have seen. And I think maybe the reason why I want it so bad is because characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming together, like in Avengers, was
Hmm.
so big.
Right.
Characters from space coming together with the Avengers was, again, something so big, and we had never seen anything like it, and I couldn't believe that we got to. Having a multi universe cinematic universe involved with itself, that is something that I'm like, I mean, that's the next big step, isn't it?
It kind of makes me worry though, because I don't know if you've ever been confronted with this, but when you're young, you have let's say you have Nintendo, right? You have
Okay.
7 games, you have some choices, you have some favorite games, but when you get too many choices, you become paralyzed with choice,
Sure.
and you can't enjoy any one thing because you have too many options.
So what are
So
the options in this regard?
multiverse gives me pause because there's so many possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy what you're getting, and is it become too much to follow? You know what I mean? Because I mean, really, at that point, it becomes anything is a possibility. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I feel like we all have to live with certain boundaries on possibilities, or else it becomes a little maddening and a little bit paralyzing.
And to kind of add what you were saying on terms of it would have to kind of make sense because it
Mm.
might just be too confusing now. Um, I'm sure the average moviegoer who especially grew up in the age of the MCU but didn't watch the original Raimi Spider-Mans would not get any pleasure from Tobey Maguire randomly showing up. So
Absolutely
they
not.
would have to word it. At that point, they almost can't be a cameo because they would have to specifically state this is a Spider-Man from a different universe, and the people who grew up with those movies get to go, "Oh yeah, I definitely know that." But the people who won't get to be like, "Okay, I get it," just like that other Spider-Man movie that came out a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? But yeah, I get what you're saying about there just being too much
Yeah.
and then it just becomes less enjoyable. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like if I sat in the movie theater and I was watching Spider-Man 3 and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man swings through a portal, I'm gonna I'm gonna geek out.
I mean, honestly, like the idea of the 3 Spider-Men, um, and maybe coming up with another one, that we're not familiar with.
People were
Honestly,
saying,
just the Spider-Verse was amazing. I mean, so
well,
if they
exactly.
recreate that with stuff that we're familiar with, I can't see how they could f that up.
Well,
But
people were
as
saying,
long as
let's try to find a way for Miles from his Into the Spider-Verse movie. Let's try to find a way for him to get involved in this now.
that would be dope.
Crazy. But I'm like, he's a cartoon, so I guess they would make him live action. But then that'd be a whole other different thing.
It's so weird though.
It's like trying to talk about time travel. My brain's all like mixed up. I'm like, how is this gonna work?
See, but like, and you got to figure like they're gonna be starting to incorporate X-Men, and all this stuff is. It's so daunting, the idea of what they're going to try to accomplish over the next few years, the next 10 years in this movie universe. So I guess I'm curious to see how it's going to happen. And I love, dude, to me, I think bringing the other two Spider-Men into this movie would just show you how much better and how much, more fun to watch the MCU Spider-Man stuff is than the other two,
Yeah, totally. It would definitely. I think for many people, it'd just be like, it's like the prophecy has been fulfilled,
right?
Like kind of thing.
Like if you did Flashpoint Paradox, if you did that, would you bring back the 19?
They're doing that though.
Well, right, but if you did that, would you bring back the '66 Batman? You know what I mean? Like to be alongside Michael Keaton and be alongside.
As much as I would love that, I bet you, if Adam West was still alive, they would probably find a way to do that.
Maybe.
I bet you they would try.
Maybe.
But maybe they would just want to go, okay, then let's do the oldest, like, most recognizable Batman that we have, which is Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, right.
And he's going to kill it. And I'm so excited for that,
Of course he's going to kill it.
Because Michael Keaton's the best. Oh, I'm so ready for that.
But that belongs, though. You know what I mean? Like, that, to me, makes sense. Now, because there's not that disparity in quality to me. You know what I mean? There is a disparity in quality between these movies and the new Spider-Man movies, I feel like. And that I'm sure that there are people that feel like their Spider-Man is the best one. But
I was scrolling through Twitter at these announcements, and the people who are on Twitter going, well, I mean, Tobey Maguire is the best one. And I'm like, sure, that's a good argument because you grew up with it. And then people are like, Andrew Garfield's the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. But then I see a lot of people saying that. So I'm like, wow. I don't know. I feel like people are just going to enjoy it because they're going to get to see their Spider-Man again.
I think, not to get too in the weeds with the Spider-Man thing, I feel like Andrew Garfield was fine. It was his movies that were bad. Not bad.
That's a good argument though. I get what you mean. Like it was the films themselves that didn't hold up him high enough.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
Personally, I think he was awful Peter Parker because he was just kind of too cool. But he was a perfect Spider-Man. He was way too handsome. It's Andrew Garfield. But he was a perfect Spider-Man. His dialogue, his wit was the funniest part of that movie, especially with that whole, like, car thief, don't dress up like a car thief if you're going to steal cars. And then the guy pulls out, like, a knife, and he's like, my one weakness. That was all really good.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of Spider-Man I want to see. And then the first time we got to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man in Civil War, he gave us Peter Parker, perfect. He gave us Spider-Man, perfect, and Spider-Man's wit, perfect. Especially when he throws that, Winter Soldier throws the fist, and he's like, you have a metal arm? That's so cool.
But at the same time, being so powerful that he's able to just catch this guy's
fist.
He's
like, whoa!
Yeah,
no problem.
And I'm so glad that we didn't have to sit through another origin story. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm so glad that they told it in a way that's different, but a way that we can accept it.
But the thing is, like, we all already know the story, and they've hinted at Uncle Ben plenty of times without giving us Uncle Ben. And I'm like, cool. I don't need to see Uncle Ben die again.
Who do you think would be Uncle Ben? Because
in this universe,
Tomei, yeah. So it'd have to be like probably like John Hamm or something like that, right?
Oh, John Hamm would be killer as an
yeah.
But You know what? That makes me happier because I want John Hamm in the MCU, and I don't want
Yeah.
him wasted as Uncle Ben. But no, that is a good question. Who would be the perfect Uncle Ben? Hmm.
I would love to see, and I would love to see the Daredevil. I loved
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox, John Bernthal,
Oh yeah.
though, and I thought Michael Colton, was that his name? Luke Cage,
Oh
Mike
yeah.
Coulter.
I think so. I'll check that. I loved him as Luke Cage. He's perfect.
Now I hated the second season of Luke Cage was garbage, but
Again,
um,
that's the season was bad, not him.
exactly. So I'd
Mike
love to see
Coulter.
those guys start to be introduced, and I think that Spider-Man is the perfect conduit for those
Sure.
because he's from New York, and I just don't know how you get that to happen.
I saw
Um,
something. I saw something where it's like, because of the end of Far From Home, where it's like everything is revealed. You
mhm.
know, uh, and then I saw somebody go, "Looks like Spider Man's gonna need a good lawyer," and then Charlie Cox walks in. That'd
That'd be dope. See,
be awesome.
I would rather have that than the other
Then
Spider-Man
the
coming in.
other Spider Man. Yeah, at least like the really really good people, like Charlie Cox, John Burton, Mike Coulter. I think all three of them would be perfect.
Yeah, I thought Jessica Jones can stay. Jessica Jones was great. No shade to Jessica Jones. I like the series, and I like the actors and everything, but I could just stay on its own. It's fine. And Iron Fist. Don't even get me started on that disaster.
I thought the
Um,
first season was fine.
actually,
Fine.
I thought the second season was way better than the first season.
Interesting. Hmm.
Now I liked what I did like. Um, was I thought they did a great job with the music. Uh,
Yeah, Iron Fist
and
had great music.
and because the kid would have been into hip hop, and
Hmm.
and I get that
Him,
Danny Rand is supposed to be stuck in his teenage years because he
yeah.
never got to grow up, but at the same time, oh my god, that guy was annoying.
But I'm just
uh
saying, like, I thought it was so awesome. Like, I think a lot of people hated this, but I thought it was really cool that he would meditate to like hip hop and the hip hop he'd
no, I
listen
love
to
that.
when the
Yeah.
plane crashed. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Like
I
as a
thought that was
character choice.
one of the only cool things about the whole show, honestly. And I the second season I hated because it was like it became all about Colleen Wing and
Yeah, she became the
Misty
driving
Knight.
force. Yeah,
I didn't watch Iron Lung so I could watch a procedural
Iron
crime drama
Lung.
with Misty Knight, the one-armed detective. You know what I mean? That's not why I tuned into this. I want to see a guy with a glowing fist beat people up. So
We were talking about fan casting for a split second, but I also wanted to bring it back to Wolverine because I heard this the other day. What do you think of the casting for MCU's Wolverine? Carl Urban.
I'd be into it.
Ah?
I'd be into it. I
I
love,
think he'd
dude.
be great.
Honestly, it'd be weird though because he was also in Ragnarok.
Yeah, that is the problem
He
though,
was
because he's
he
already
was
been in the
Scourge.
MCU.
Yeah,
Which what a wasted character for such a good
definitely
actor. I mean,
for
Scourge was
sure.
great in that movie, but I'm really upset that Carl Urban was wasted in that movie.
I mean, that would have been wow. What a great you
Yeah,
know.
it's exactly how I feel about Rachel McAdams, because she's like the love interest in Doctor
Oh
Strange,
right,
and I'm like,
yeah.
she's such a good actress, and you wasted her.
Well, it's so funny because they use so many people that have it's one of those
They're
things where like you're gonna use people wrong
exactly
at some point.
you're gonna run out of stars because the other ones are all in DC.
Well, here's the thing: you're never gonna run out of
Well,
stars.
yeah,
There's always gonna always be somebody
true,
coming up.
true.
And frankly, Guardians of the Galaxy made Goofy Andy from Parks and Rec into a movie star.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
So,
So that's there's always other places to grab people from.
yep, totally.
You know what I mean? The Boys is a great example of just a star making turn for everybody on that show.
Yeah, for real.
Um,
But I wanted to, before we talk about the boys, real quick, I did want to ask, did you ever watch Dexter.
I didn't watch Dexter.
Okay. Dexter has been announced to come back, and
Saw that.
I wanted to bring light to it real quick because if there are any people who listen to this who loved Dexter, I also was very upset at the ending, and I would normally not be happy with them coming back to a show years after it's been finished, but because they're coming back to this one, I'm happy because the ending was not great. Many people hated it.
It'd be awesome to see shows fix the endings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too because I thought to myself, what other shows could do this? And I was on the chat with my buddy Martin, and he was like, Game of Thrones could redo their ending, and I was like, dude, they'd have to redo their whole final season to make
Yeah,
that work.
they couldn't redo the ending because everybody's dead.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Everything leading up to the ending needs to be fixed on terms of that final season.
You know, let's talk about this for just 1 second because I was so upset. I was so upset because not because of the way that Daenerys turned out to be, because I expected that.
Really?
I,
You
I
expected that?
I knew she was gonna go crazy
That's so
because
upsetting to hear.
she was power mad the entire time.
Yeah, but
Nobody who wants to be in charge that badly is sane. It's not.
But
Even
I
if you think it's you're right.
I think what the show was doing was putting every obstacle in her way to make her go crazy because that was her like lineage was, she's the daughter of the Mad King kind of deal. So they put all of that shit in her way to kind of predict that that's going to happen, but she overcome every single thing. And then it was the death of one person that was like snap, and then everything went wrong. And I'm like, come on, you've been stronger than this the entire show. And I don't know. If they wanted her to go crazy, they should have, sowed the seeds of that way earlier than having her go over every obstacle that was in her path just then to go. And now she's crazy. You know what I mean?
Honestly, dude, just anything other than Jon Snow being the king was just not going to do it for me.
Honestly, for the two I was fine with would be overcoming obstacles, Daenerys or Jon Snow. Those were the two I was fine with. Like people were hoping that Peter Dinklage's character was going to do it, and I was like, nah, I don't think he wants it.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's interesting how that show kind of devolved very quickly at the end because I feel like everybody was so excited for that final season, and the moment that like episode 2 happened, everybody was like, "This is garbage."
Have you ever written a really long essay or a really long research project and you're killing it, you're crushing it the whole time, but then just at the end you just want to be done with it? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, for real. And they surpassed the books too, didn't they?
Like, yeah, they out yeah.
And there's your real issue.
Yeah, and frankly, like I did honestly, the deaths were unsatisfying, whereas the deaths before were satisfying or at least shocking enough that you didn't need to be satisfied.
Cersei's death straight up pissed me off. I was like, well, the Ice King pissed me off. I was like, well, that happened. Just because it was so quick. They build it up so much just for nothing to happen or whatever. We could talk about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, honestly. Maybe that could be like one of those things we deep dive in later
on.
Oh my
god. How about we do a rewatch of Game of Thrones and we do like season by season?
We've talked about it. My wife and I have talked about rewatching the show.
Oh, maybe that's an upcoming
not a bad idea.
Podcast.
Not a bad idea.
Okay, well, let's quickly talk about The Boys. This is a show that you have recommended I think a couple of times, actually. It is a show that I was on the hype train for when it got announced because I was like, oh man, this premise is awesome. I read up on the graphic novel. I learned, what the story is and what it's about. And I said, this is going to rock. Then the first season came out, never saw it. I just never got around to it. And everybody was telling me it's the greatest thing ever. And when people tell you something's good and you're not surprised that it's good, it's almost like, I guess I don't need to get around to it right now because I know I'll enjoy it when I get to it. That kind of mentality.
Right.
Then the second season came out, and the final episode of the second season came out. Everybody was talking about it, and I went, I should probably watch this show. So I started watching The Boys. And I'll tell you now, I'm more than halfway through season 2, but for this discussion that we're going to have right now, It's just about season 1.
Okay.
We will probably talk about spoilers. It's going to be a short discussion, but we're probably going to talk about spoilers. So maybe if you don't want to be spoiled on The Boys, I do recommend the show. But how about we do our quick recommendations before we talk about it? Does that sound good?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
My recommendation this week is something that I saw on Amazon Prime while I was going to watch The Boys, and I said, I want to watch that first. And it's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? A
Oh,
fantastic film that everybody
classic.
should see. And the music, the story, the acting, everything about that movie works, and it's one of those timeless classics that I could just go back to feel good. It's God, I love that movie, and I know you do too.
Coen Brothers. I mean, they could do no wrong, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend Schitt's Creek.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
you know, Canadian comedy,
Mm-hmm.
just very funny, very interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Chris Elliott is just so funny in this show, and Eugene Levy and Daniel Levy, very clever writing, um, interesting premise,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, like my wife watched it and she said it was funny, and she's absolutely right. Really funny show with some heart, and it's not. I so one of the things I think is great about it is Daniel Levy's character.
Mm-hmm.
David is pansexual, but it's they don't
Right.
make a big deal. They don't make a big deal about it.
It's just a casual
It's
thing.
just it's just there, it just exists.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'd like to see the world be like. Is that people are just able to be who they
Right.
be and love who they love, and nobody makes a big deal about it.
And
So
and I think that's where media needs to go, where
yes,
like having representation is a really good thing, but let's not make it all about the representation, because then that almost perverts
it
the
highlights
reason.
it.
It highlights it, and it kind of
Yeah.
perverts the reason why you're putting it in, just to kind of go, hey, look at us, we did it, we
Well, see,
did it, didn't we?
I've been so conditioned that we're watching this show. It's a comedy. It's a
Yeah,
lighthearted
yeah.
comedy. And he meets a guy, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go out and get some air?" And I was like, "Oh my god, are they luring him outside to beat him up?" You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
that's immediately like where
Where your brain went.
movies and TVs
Right.
have trained my mind to go in these situations. And the fact that it was just no, it's just regular.
Hmm.
I mean, I love that, and it's such an enjoyable show.
Hmm. Well,
So,
I can't agree enough with you. I've heard such great things about that show.
and even though it's a sitcom, it's short seasons. So,
Yeah, which is also, for some reason, that is more appealing to me than like a 22 episode long TV series where it's like they've got 15 seasons. The only thing I'll do that with now is The Simpsons.
honestly, dude, the reason that streaming, cable, and all those other shows are better
Hmm.
than network TV isn't anything other than it's not that the writers are more talented.
Oh, sure.
It's because they do 22 episodes instead of 12.
Hmm.
So you're getting a lot of bullshit that you don't need, a lot of filler,
You don't want.
and
Yeah.
right. And instead of just making a good beginning, middle, end of a show, you've got to
Right.
fill 22 episodes. So that's where network TV gets it wrong.
I completely agree. But okay, season 1 spoilers of The Boys. This is your warning now. If you haven't seen The Boys, get out. Go away. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for visiting. So we're talking about The Boys, a show that I was so happy to finally start. Um, I was I was very disappointed.
In the first season,
Hmm.
why?
I
Because you had
think
such high hopes.
I think the show was overhyped for me.
Oh,
That's my overall, probably what makes the most sense to me, because everybody loves it. And here's the thing, I love it. I just don't like it, and I think that's the weird part. I think everything about the show is super enjoyable, but there's still all these nagging things that just bug me.
like what?
First off, maybe I would have liked Homelander to be a consistently good guy until a reveal towards the end of the season. Because even they set him up in the first episode as all the superheroes suck, all of them are the worst scum of the earth, all of them secretly are just assholes, except Homelander. Guy's a saint. Even Butcher, who knows better, as we learn, who knows better, says that he's a saint because that's what the world thinks. Like all of them suck. but Homelander's the one pure of them all. And you see that. I legitimately loved the character when Starlight walked into her like first meeting and
Mm-hmm.
he's like super heroic. He seems like an actual Superman, and I would have loved if they kept that facade going until some point where you really got to see, oh, he's like the worst of them. I feel like that character arc was just kind of taken from us. You know what I mean? Again, these are kind of picky things,
I mean,
but
I
it's how
see
I
what
would
you're
have liked the
saying.
show going.
I see what you're saying, but at the same time, like you learn so much about how evil he is throughout the
Throughout the
show.
season, right? But
That if
like,
you hadn't learned that, you wouldn't have any idea. You wouldn't have the context of
mm-hmm.
like I don't know, like the airplane thing. You wouldn't have had that,
And I was
or would
thinking,
have that
well, because
that would have been the turn.
I had those thoughts way before the airplane thing, and then when the airplane thing happened, I was like, how could they have done this differently, and where he still could have been revealed as a bad guy? And I was like, what if we didn't see the airplane thing when it happened, and we just saw the aftermath, and we see Queen Maeve,
Video.
yeah, and then the video, and by the end of the season is when we learn exactly what happened, and it's almost like a flashback, and we get to see exactly what went down, and we're like, no, not our Homelander, he's actually a bad guy. I just feel like that reveal would have been really enjoyable, and the fact of the matter is that they set him up the entire first episode as he's the only good one, and then they show him at the end of their first episode killing like the senator on the plane or something. I was like, eh, unfortunately I already knew, but
I don't know, man.
again, it's small. It's small. It's
I
whatever.
just I think that we need to know what we're up against from the beginning because
Sure.
the stakes are much higher with Homelander as evil because he's so powerful.
Because he's so powerful. Right.
Right.
Maybe I would have liked the inner arc of like, man, why does Homelander put up with this stuff? Like, he can see the corruption around him. Why doesn't he put a stop to it? He's such a good guy.
Right.
And then we learn he is the worst of them all. Maybe that reveal would have been nice too. But again, that's just a way maybe I would have done it differently. It's there is a lot in the show that I found very predictable, which maybe that's because of my exposure to media, but like the season 1 finale where we learn about Becca and Homelander and you know what that entails, where again, spoiler, you know, Homelander's son and Becca's alive and all that. I knew that was coming from a mile away.
I did not.
Really? The moment they mentioned, the moment they show Becca and they're like, she's dead, but we don't know she's dead, but she's dead. She's got to be dead. She's either killed herself or Homelander's killed her. She's dead. And I was like, in a show like this where they'll be so graphic about everything, I feel like they would show an actual proof of her being dead. And then when they talked about her being raped, and then Homelander specifically, you know, like impregnated her, and then showed the clip of like her about to give birth, and the baby crawled his way out, and then the baby died in the mother's blood. I was like, okay, so maybe Becca is dead, and that's what we saw. And the baby's alive, because the baby's definitely alive, right? That's got to be the case. And then, and that was the confirmation for the audience as well as it was Homelander, when Stillwell or whatever her name is was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about the miscarriage," and he realized, their stories are different. That was my confirmation of, oh, okay, so they're both alive. They're both alive. And then the next episode, we saw them at the end both alive. It was, and again, this is probably just because I've seen too much of this.
Yeah.
Stillwell was a character that halfway through the season I had to think, well, in shows like this, a main player is going to die, but it's not going to be any of the 7 that are around now. It's probably not going to be any of the boys. Maybe Starlight, but I feel like they're going to hang on to her. And then when I saw Stillwell, I was like, and this is halfway through the season, I went, she's going to die. She's going to be the one.
Wow. Again, definitely did not see that coming.
No,
because,
man, like
because of his attachment to her.
When they did that scene, and they really want you to think like he's gonna kill the baby, and I thought too, I was like, he's gonna kill the baby, but because he was just messing with it so much, I was like, he's gonna kill her, because then Butcher's not gonna have like a card to play kind of deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that is what happened. But I don't know, man. There is so much to love about this show. I really do recommend it to people. But I guess it's just because it was overhyped and because I'm predicting so much that it's just like more and more like, ah, man. Also, here's a very interesting complaint, and I want to know how you feel about it.
Okay.
Are you enjoying this, or are you hating every
Yeah,
moment?
no. I
Okay,
love it.
okay. So, the show's funny. It's dark comedy. It's really, really good. You know who's not funny, and they keep dedicating time to? The Deep. I don't care about the Deep. I have never cared about the Deep. The moment that he was a sexual offender, I was like, I don't care about this character. And the entirety of season 1 and season 2 onward, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later in other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
They make you try to feel for the Deep as if, like, you know, like what he's going through has redeemed him for the horrible action he made. And I'm like, I'm already not on board with the Deep, and I don't care.
I never got that. See, I never got that they were trying to make me feel sorry for him.
Then I don't know what that scene was where he's getting, like, you know, messed with in the gills by that one girl, because that was for 2 reasons. Either to gross out the viewer, which I don't know why you'd want to do that, or it was revenge porn, so you can be like, haha, how do you like it? Or it was to be like, oh no, it's happening to him now. And all 3 of those options, I'm like, why would you want to show that to anybody? He's already an unenjoyable character. Don't make me feel sorry for him. I'm not into revenge porn, so please stop. And I don't want to be grossed out. Like, there's already so much gross stuff in the show. I don't think we need to dedicate 20 minutes of an episode to it. You know what I mean?
I can see what you're saying. I never.
Every time the scene turns to the Deep, I'm upset because I'm like, I hate this character. I don't care. I don't care about the Deep. I went on a rampage the other day about the Deep to somebody who loves that show.
I don't know, man. The Deep, when he was talking to the dolphin, was pretty funny, I thought.
See, and that's the other thing. They make him Aquaman, right? Like, that's the joke. He's Aquaman, so he's weird and he's a water guy, and he's the butt of the joke. But he's already an unenjoyable character, that why do you make him the comedic relief when the show is already funny? Mm-hmm. So when they talk about the one moment in season 1 that I was actually, like, turning around to the Deep was when he wanted to make a change at, like, the SeaWorld park in the show, where they're like, you know, they're treated horribly. I know I'm, like, a spokesperson, but I'd really like to, you know, move on and help those animals because I know they're in a lot of pain. And then it's him saving the dolphin. And then immediately the conversation turns into the dolphin going, you want to do me? And I'm like, yeah, because he's the fish guy. Ha ha ha. I'm just
you're so angry.
I am, because I hate the Deep and they're trying to make him the comedic relief when I don't. The comedic relief in most shows are an enjoyable character that you want to watch being funny. Every time he's on screen, I'm upset because I'm like, I don't care about the Deep, and they're trying to make me laugh at him. But I was grossed out when the dolphin died. Mm-hmm. There's even more horrible stuff that happened in season 2 that I was grossed out by, and I was like, I don't know if this is supposed to be funny or just for shock value, or it's supposed to make me feel bad for the Deep. But none of it works for me right now.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I never felt sorry for him, even in the scene with the gills. I thought, well, you know, this is just, you know, his penance for the life he's lived up to this point.
Right, and that was one of the 3 things was, like, it was the quote-unquote revenge porn, where it's like, now the audience gets to watch and see you suffer. Isn't that, like, cathartic? And I'm like,
I gotta tell you, my favorite movies are the movies where the good guy loses his mind and kills all the bad guys. Man on Fire, Taken. I'm here for that. I'm here for.
Did he lose his mind in Taken?
Oh yeah.
He's not crazy and Taken.
He shot that lady at the dinner table. He shot his friend's wife at the dinner table.
Was this in Taken 1?
Yeah. His buddy, the police officer.
I don't remember that in Taken 1.
So it's like, oh, Jean-Claude, look who showed up. It's Brian Mills. And so the guy goes to the bathroom, gets the gun out, pulls it on him and says, "You're leaving now." And he tries to shoot him, but he took the bullets out. And
Oh.
then Brian Mills takes the gun and he loads it up and he shoots the wife in the arm. He's like, "It's just a flesh wound, but it won't be if you don't help me." You know what I mean? Last thing you'll see before I kill you is your wife dying.
Oh. I don't remember that in Taken 1. I do remember this, though. Anyway, whatever. But no, I get what you're saying. That's
what I'm into that. I'm into bad guys getting their comeuppance.
Okay, sure. But do you want his comeuppance to be messed up in the gills?
I don't have to see it, is the thing.
And we saw it. They sat on that for a while. And all I did was make me grossed out.
To argue the point for it, it's interesting. I don't know.
Just because of the aspect that he does have gills?
Yeah.
Yes, but we've already, the reveal that he has gills is in that scene, which is something that I think anybody could, maybe predict, but it's not something that was ever really thought about because, whatever, it's the Deep. But I don't think the scene needed to go there to reveal that he had gills.
Probably right. I mean, and you're probably right about,
in fact,
upon reflection, it does seem like they are trying to make him a little bit of a character that you do feel sorry for because there are a lot of things.
I feel like, especially in season 2 now, they're trying to make you feel bad for his journey.
I was I was insecure because I had gills, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, thinking back, yeah, you're probably right. I just never felt sorry for him, no matter what. So
exactly, but the thing is, the fact of the matter is, they're trying to make me feel bad for him, and I don't, and that's why every time that they cut to him, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Again, these are things that just it was a show that was definitely overhyped for me. I think I told you yesterday when I was talking to you and Justin before the video game podcast, Newbie Brothers. I think I said when I started watching the first episode, I was not into it at all until Billy Butcher showed up. When Billy Butcher showed up, I was like, you just saved the show. Thank you. Because, Starlight's journey, I knew exactly where that was headed. I was like, I knew exactly she was going to be, this model, and she was going to be used, and I even, when she went into that conference room with the Deep in episode 1, I was like, I know where this is going. And I was really upset to be right. And Huey is a character that, it's really sad about what happened to him, but his journey getting there takes so long to meet Billy Butcher. And of course they did the writing 101 where it's like, this is your last chance, Huey. I ain't coming back. I'm not going to ask again. And then he walks away. And then Huey walks away. And then Huey decides to go to him. And I'm
right.
And I'm like, you have been fighting for revenge this entire episode. I know because I've had to slog through it with you. How are you not immediately taking this guy up on it? And he says he's from the FBI.
If there's one thing I don't like, it's Huey.
Really? I think he's turned around at this point in the show, where I am at least.
I feel like he never becomes hard.
I think he will. We're watching his journey of him becoming hard. At the end of season 1, he makes a decision that he definitely would not make in episode 1. And that is to come back for the gang as opposed to helping Billy. He's like, no, we have to help MM and Frenchie and Kimiko, which I don't even think she was in the room with them at the time. They had to rescue her from this other thing that they were doing experiments on. But that scene was really funny because, one, we got to see him making decisions on his own, which is a hard decision to make. And then 2, we got to see them going, cover me, and him going, ah! I'm sorry. So he doesn't want any part of that. He doesn't want any part of the violence, But
and I want him to be violent.
He's gonna get there. I promise you.
I hope so.
I really think he will.
I thought, and I finished season 2,
which I'm almost done.
I thought season 2 was twice as good as the first season.
I will say I am enjoying season 2 more than season 1.
I mean, just the premises that they do and the new characters that they introduce,
Yeah.
it's great. But, so the whole idea of the show I thought was brilliant because knowing people and
Hmm.
how they are, giving them power would just make them bastards, and that's
Yeah.
what's happened. You know what I
Sure.
mean? So they're not supervillains. It's just like real people. They put on a fake front for everybody else, but then behind closed doors, they're real pieces of shit. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I thought the superhero club thing was an interesting scene. That was really cool. Do you remember that?
Oh, from that was first episode, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'm not,
Where it's
see, because
where
it's been
it's
a while since I
where
saw the
it's
first
where the
season.
superheroes can go to like let loose essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I do remember liking that where you got to see like there was some really messed up stuff in that scene
Yes.
too with like the guy getting really tiny and
Hmm.
doing the stuff and the concept alone is super interesting, and I think that's why I was on board when they announced it, was the idea of like this is a group of people who, when superheroes are essentially celebrities and they let loose, it's their job to put them back in their place. And
Hmm.
that was the premise. And so far the show has been, well, they're trying to do that, but there's all this other stuff in the way, and maybe they'll kill somebody along the way, but hopefully they'll actually get to doing it. And
Well, it's an indictment on corporate America and
sure.
the oligarchy and the whole thing. So it's interesting, man, and I like it, and
Oh no, I do too. Well, I
I didn't
love
have
it,
any of
but
the
I don't
I didn't
like
have
it.
any of the problems that you had with it.
I have very interesting problems that I have not heard
Yeah,
anybody else talking about. I feel like I'm truly in a bubble, but I think it has come from overhype, not only from everybody else, from myself too. I really was excited to watch this show, and I am enjoying it. I do recommend it to people because I think it is good. Um, and the other thing that I was telling people when I first started watching it was, and this could really because I just watched the MCU from start to finish. And it's the marketability of these superheroes that they're making films and toys and sports products and stuff like that off of them, and that seems to be the major focus of all of the superheroes in the room is
Mhm.
how they're doing financially. I remembered watching and I went, man, they did it. They made superheroes boring, but but they did it well. And I
Yeah,
think that's the point. The
right.
premise is these superheroes are boring, and that's what's interesting to people. Me, I was not ready for it because I had just watched the MCU and then this super overhyped show, and then I watched it, and then it was such a complete 180, and I'm sure that's why I held season one at such a harsh level. But like you said, season two's way better. I'm enjoying season two a lot. Season three has already been announced, but they haven't said it's going to be the final season, so I'm sure it's going to go on to at least four.
Hope so.
Um, I'm excited to see it keep going, and I feel like you and me are going to have more and more season talks. How about next week we'll talk about season two?
I like
We'll
it
do this again.
because I think you're gonna like I think you're gonna like the way you look. I think the way the season ends is a real shocker.
You're going to like the way I look at on terms of like I'm going to eat my own words or something.
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a Men's Warehouse commercial.
Oh.
I was just quoting. I thought you might know that, but
I've heard of
apparently.
Men's Warehouse. I just didn't get the whatever. Uh, all right. So next week, Boys season two. If you're a fan of the Boys and you've watched season two, come and join us next week, and we'll talk about that too. I'm sure I'm gonna like the way I look about it. So, all right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this week. How are you feeling, Tank?
Feeling great, man. It's always good to talk about movies, and very excited that they're starting to come back.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited, especially from what we got to see today through those trailers. But all right, well, that's gonna do it for this week. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Again, you can watch us on YouTube at No Talking During the Movies on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. We talk about the upcoming episode and what we'll be talking about and our recommendations and big movie news we'll put on there occasionally. So that's always good. And thank you guys again so much for listening. But we will see you next week. Once again, I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am the guy holding up the his end, barely. Tank.
You got that all out, didn't you?
I didn't. I wasn't ready. Sorry.
Bye.